We're here in Las Vegas at the Shelby Heritage Center, which is home to more than 30 rare Shelby vehicles and tells the story of Carroll Shelby and the company he started way back in 1962. My pal Gary Patterson is Shelby American's president, and he's going to give us a personal tour.
Well, it all starts, well, why don't we start here?
It's a museum.
It's Heritage Center.
Heritage Center, better word.
Yeah, so this is a continuation car. Looks a lot like Carroll's original that sold for $13.75 million years ago, so obviously that value continues to go up. And it certainly didn't look like this. The seats were all ratty and so forth, but the important thing I want to show you today is Carroll always wanted to give back. So after he got his heart transplant, he started the Carroll Shelby Children's Foundation at the time, and it's really evolved into the Carroll Shelby Foundation.
Right.
Carroll's grandson, Aaron Shelby, was on the board of directors of the Carroll Shelby Foundation.
Yeah, and if you ever see the guy, he looks just like Carroll as a young man.
He really does. And the cool thing is, Aaron, is carrying on that legacy and that part of it, and he also helps us with our meetings at Ford Motor Company. It's nothing like having your name on the building and being a great guy and a car guy and so forth. But in this case, it's a way to give back. And Carroll got a heart transplant in 1990, kidney transplant in 1996. And so when the doctors told him in 1960 he might have 5 years to live, and he lived 52 more, wow. There's a lot of blessings there.
Awesome. These are
So
fun
really
driving
cool.
old cars too.
Oh, they're great little cars.
Well, and speaking of these cars, I see some really hot looking ones across the way.
So this is pretty cool. So these again are more continuation cars. We've got a 50th anniversary, and this was a Sebring edition, but of the FIA. And this one is a 50th anniversary, polished aluminum, by the way, of the 427. So this isn't some wrap or something like that. This is actually polished aluminum. And a big block car and so forth.
It might have sold, what's the story with these little flappers for $4,500 or something there?
No. That's not what that's actually the last of the CSX serial number.
Oh, really?
So it's CSX 4580. Wow. So those wind wings actually go to this car, and that's how we identify them until you pull that wrapper off so that it protects the finish of that. But
and this car is it like hand built like this?
Yeah.
The shape
really
of this
hand-built.
is not, something that they just stamp out. You got to really work.
No, you got to work it. There's like 37 different aluminum body panels, and if you really look closely, Alan, you can actually see where the seams are that they've ground down and polished and polished and polished. About 500 man hours just to get that done.
So beautiful.
So it's really cool. Also an example, 50th anniversary polished aluminum Daytona coupe. So, even more body work to polish.
Peter Brock is the designer of the Daytona coupe.
Correct.
Lives here in Vegas.
That's correct. Peter's a good friend. He's just a fabulous guy. Has his own shop, BRE, still well into his 80s, but working every day.
That's awesome.
So he's just like the Energizer Bunny. And when Peter was in his 20s, he designed this car.
Unbelievable.
That went on to beat Ferrari, world champion. Peter drew it out on a napkin. And then eventually they started putting it together. Carroll, being Carroll, brought in his aerodynamic experts. The thing he didn't realize is his guys learned how to fly. The idea here was to fly but stay on the ground.
Right.
So that was different. And the guy came in, the expert, and said, "Dumb idea, kid. It's not going to work."
Oh, really?
Carroll said it better work because we've already gotten quite a ways down. And
wow.
Peter showed him that, in fact, it did work and won the World Manufacturers Championship.
We did a beautiful interview with Peter Brock at SEMA one year, and he just truly is a nice man. And, when you think of what he's accomplished, and there's such humility in this guy, you just immediately love him when you get a chance to talk to him. That's what I love about this hobby. There's so many people in it that are iconic, but they haven't lost their humility. I know a lot of them. And of course, there's the other side of the equation too. But Peter Brock is one of the true gentlemen of our industry.
And Peter's great, but it also, if you saw the movie Ford versus Ferrari, it's Carroll Shelby, it's Henry Ford, but it's a whole lot of people behind that. Okay, Carroll was smart enough to surround himself with people like Peter Brock and Phil Remington and Ken Miles. Those were the guys that are in the trenches that get it done. We have the same thing here at our company today. Yeah, you know, I've got the corner office, but it's not about me. It's about the team of people that work and put this together and get the job done.
True
That's
story.
what makes this a legacy. That's what makes this continue on. It's all of you.
Now, this bunny on the hood of this car, what is the story with this bunny? I've heard so many stories. We're going to hear the truth from Gary Patterson.
Oh, there's a lot of stories behind the bunny on the hood. So that was actually done by Bill Neal. Bill Neal's a fabulous automotive artist, ran an ad agency in Texas and so forth, and sadly we just lost him about a month ago. He was 95.
Yeah.
So he could tell the Carroll Shelby stories because the Terlingua bunny was actually down in Terlingua, Texas, and about the only thing that lives and runs around in Terlingua, Texas is a jackrabbit. So that's kind of a spoof on the bunny and the Ferrari emblem.
Okay.
But it's also a story of Carroll Shelby and the guys going down to Terlingua, Texas, and they partied a bit.
Uh-oh.
And the paw up like this was either no more peppers in the chili or I think I've had enough tequila. So it was enough is enough. But
That's
really
awesome.
that whole thing resulted around that whole thing, and
That's
there's a
great.
whole beer drinking goat and all kinds of stuff. We won't even get into those stories. This is a Super Snake Cobra, which was a 427 Cobra, and if you know that wasn't enough, 500 horses in a 2,480 pound car, then you put dual quads and 2 Paxton superchargers
Oh
on,
my God.
just to keep the ante even further up the line.
Now, what's this beautiful gold one?
This gold one. So this is actually a great story. This is a good friend and a mod shop of ours out of Roaring Springs, Pennsylvania. Barry Smith is the guy that owned this car and donated it to us. But he had it made out of copper. So that's like a whole bunch of pennies there, right? So it really doesn't make sense other than, wow, it's a copper car that's, oh, by the way, polished. And if you look inside, it's got a single overhead cam, polished 427 with 8 fuel injection stacks on
my
it. This
gosh.
thing is amazing.
It is amazing.
It is amazing. It's just like, if some's good, way too much is even better. So another continuation of those twin Paxton supercharged cross ram dual quad 427 Cobra.
Now, here is a nice, what is that, a 65?
65 GT 350, one of the continuation cars, again done by Barry Smith, but it's a 50th anniversary of that. So those cars in the 60s, they were $5,000, way too much money. Today they're bringing $400,000 to $500,000.
Oh my God.
So, you could have invested in gold, but you could have also driven your car for the last 60 years, almost, and enjoyed it this whole time, and it would appreciate at about the same rate.
Unreal.
So pretty cool stuff. 65 GT350, very iconic. All 65 started in Wimbledon white with Guardsman blue stripes.
That's another little fact I didn't know.
Right, so all of them were white in 65. Actually less than half of them came with the over-the-top stripes. They all had the side stripe, but less than half actually left the factory with the over-the-top stripes.
Really?
Most all that you see today have the over-the-top stripes because that's really what people tend to associate Shelby and Shelby Mustangs with. Then in 66 they built more of them, and
What's this, 67 or 8?
so good question. It's a little bit of both. It's a 67. It's a continuation, and it's kind of the modern revelation of the Little Red car, they called it.
Yeah.
So Craig Jackson actually owns the one that was built
Right,
there.
right,
So
right.
that's pretty cool.
Right.
This particular car is a 67 Super Snake. There's one of them.
Wow.
That's the car. Okay?
Well, that's worth a few $1,000,000.
It is. Actually, it was bought a couple of years ago by a private collector for $2.2 million. So that one has continued to appreciate in value.
Wow.
So who knows what it's worth today, but couple years ago, it was $2.2 million
Wow.
for this car.
Well, that means it's worth more today. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And you can't tell the difference between the continuation cars and the real thing. And as a matter of fact, sometimes the continuation cars
Are better.
are better, just as good or better. I was going to
That's
say,
right.
yeah.
So that's the real thing.
That's awesome. Now
This
what do we
is the
got?
real thing too.
Okay.
Highland Green 68 GT500 KR. This one happens to have automatic tan interior and factory air, one of 7 built.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I think one of these coming up is yours, isn't it?
That actually belonged to my wife before we were married.
This one.
This
Oh
very
my
car.
God.
And Barry and his team helped restore it to the gem that you see today.
Wow.
Her father bought it in the 90s and loved it, drove it. It was a great father-daughter kind of project. And she always helped work on it because she had small hands, so it would get places that her dad couldn't. Great father-daughter thing. And,
That's awesome.
you know, we've now made it the car that they had always dreamed it could be, and now it is.
That is so awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a story. They got their Shelby Mustang story, their Mustang story, or whatever.
We met
That's
somebody
just kind of what ours.
in Florida
Yeah.
who let us off of a ticket because her dad used to own a Mustang.
That was the police. I think we met them with our hands
It
on
was,
the
it
hood
was
or
a lady
something.
police officer that we did not want to have trouble with. And when I said, well, Gary here, he's kind of the guy at Shelby, and he whipped out his business card, and she says, well, that's pretty special. My dad had a Shelby. So you guys slow down and be on your way. That's
She
the short
did,
version.
but yeah, that's the short version. She actually enjoyed the fact that you were very honest with her.
Well.
And because of your honest man and an honest face and a Shelby Mustang, we got out of a ticket that would have been really big. So anyway, more continuation cars. We've got a little continuation coupe from '68, an experimental GT500,
Beautiful.
kind of a thing on the Green Hornet that Craig Jackson also owns.
Right.
They played around with '67. There was one convertible. This is like it. It's
I
not
love
the
that.
real
I'm-
deal.
I'm a
That's
convertible
cool
guy, though. I love that.
I know you're a convertible guy.
Love it. Now, these two cars are a little bit special. Ford versus Ferrari, the movie. These are actually the cars from the movie.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes, no.
Oh, okay.
So the one in the movie looked like that. It was also a continuation.
Okay.
Okay, but it actually had an engine. This one doesn't.
Oh, well,
so
that's a big
this one you
difference.
could buy.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And we put a 427 in it,
Oh,
or
nice.
you know, the customer actually decides what's going to
So
happen.
what do they call this? A roller?
Yeah.
A roller. Okay.
Yep, it's a continuation. It's a roller, and that's what was actually in the movie. The car that was really in the movie, that was, you know, and some footage from the movie was Ken Miles driving the car, and that's actually a picture that's right up there on the wall of the finish of the '66 Le Mans, where they went across the line 1, 2, 3. So
Wow.
pretty cool stuff. Carroll Shelby prep cars in the front, the Holman and Moody car shortly thereafter. But Ken Miles did, in fact, slow down significantly because he was, no pun intended, miles ahead,
Wow.
and really should have won that race officially, but because of you know, corporate, what they wanted to do and the message they wanted to send Ferrari, which was kind of a, you know, we can take you off the podium if we want to, and we did.
1, 2, and 3.
And we slowed Ken down so that we
awesome.
were able to do that. So
Gosh, if
that
people-
part of it's actually true.
If people haven't seen that movie, I would say Ford versus Ferrari, just one of the best car guy movies ever.
Oh yeah,
And this one was in it.
This is a car that was in it. This very car. So the opening scenes with Carroll Shelby driving in the rain at Le Mans is this car. Now the real one is worth millions and millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Not available for the movie. So they used this. So this is a splash off of a car, a real car, and the chassis is actually a Mazda Miata.
Oh my
that
gosh.
they've made to look like it, but
That's awesome.
It's movie.
Right.
It's
Okay,
Hollywood.
Look, I saw the movie.
So-
I believed
It
it.
looked the part. It was
Yeah.
great. It did.
And they can put their own sound effects in.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
That is so
Absolutely.
great. I love
It
it.
does have a little turbo on it, so it's got a little juice
Yeah,
to
right,
it. but
right.
It's
That's,
kind of
that's
fun.
awesome. Well, it's neat that they're in here because obviously of the historic purposes and everything.
Right.
So
Right. So this one is '07 Super Snake that we actually used to pace the race in 2009 for the Shelby 427 NASCAR race.
nice, nice.
So it's pretty cool.
Nice. And so this is my favorite look of the Super Snake. I don't know why that hood, because I had one.
Yep.
I love it, love it, love it. And when I see it, it immediately just it sends a shiver, because I had so much fun in my car with you doing the stuff we did with the Bull Run. I just love this car. And so a Super Snake is in my future. I'm a young enough guy. I'm gonna have one day. It may be a truck. So who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? But that's cool. And that was the pace car. So it was a 427 edition and all those things. And they actually changed the number of laps they ran in the race to make it 427.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's really, really cool. And so this next one is actually, my wife and I bought that a little over a year and a half ago. And we can't.
Why do you think I bought mine? If you got one, I had to get one.
We didn't even convert this to signature edition yet, because you were first, Alan. So you should feel special.
I do.
But anyway, yeah, so this is ours, and we can't wait to do a bunch of stuff with it and have a really good time with it.
And that's a GT500 carbon.
Correct. So it's a carbon fiber track pack edition.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. And
Still jealous.
Yeah, the Ford guys were real cool with that. So this next one is pretty cool, because it's like over the top crazy, right? Tilt front end and all that stuff, and drag. It's all set up for the drags. Carol was good friends with Don Prudhomme. So there was always the Snake and the Mongoose, and remember that with Tommy and those guys. But anyway, so we did like 6 or 7 of those. So very special car, very limited, kind of crazy. You could drive it on the street, but oh, by the way, we got pictures of it with the front end up in the air. So it's pretty cool.
Now, is this kind of a car belong to somebody, or is it part of the?
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff here is actually, people own it. So this one's privately held, this one's privately held. Grand Marshal car that we did, in, also 09 for the race, the Grand Marshal. And so the day before the actual race, where the 427 was the Samstown 300. So the KR was the Grand Marshal car for that specific race. So that's pretty cool. And the KR was really a neat car that we did in 08 and 09. And all carbon fiber hood that we designed here, and a good partnership again with Ford Motor Company. This one is really cool too, also privately held, but this was a car that was pretty significant because it's the Shelby 1000. So we did a 1000 horsepower version that we really started. This was a 2011 model year. We started as a 2012. Really one of the last cars that Carol knew about and actually rode in. So Carol actually rode in this very specific car as a Shelby 1000.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. And, supercharging had really advanced a lot from the early days till now. So, with the big Kenny Bell on it, you could make 1,000 horses.
Kenny Bell supercharger. Cool. Beautiful.
So pretty cool. We have a great partnership with them and Whipple and Paxton, of course. We saw some Paxton superchargers. So, that was pretty neat. This is a 2012. Pretty cool, just so as the Super Snake evolved over time to where we got to the 2012. This particular car made 800 horses, on the 5.4 liter engine, which was pretty remarkable. And when we showed it to Carol, we expected, back in that particular time frame, just before this one was done, we expected, a big hug, nice job. No, when am I getting 1,000? So that was how Carol was.
Okay,
it was always what was next, right?
So
he knew about that one already. So he already,
always
kind of
challenging,
busted
holding
us.
your feet
always
to
just
the
like,
exhaust.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So this one is a wide body, 2018, and now it's updated a little bit to 2020. But if you take a look at those fenders and stuff, big bolsterous fenders in the back, but still really follow the body line of the car.
Right.
Still use a stock rear diffuser and you pull it out. We've got our own set of aluminum front fenders. This was a prototype, so they weren't aluminum, but if you look at the production ones now, they are aluminum. Our own hood design, our own front fascia, a lot of aero going on there, and so forth with a 2018 and now up to 21 Super Snake. So pretty cool cars.
And this last one is a special car.
The last one's very special because really in 1996 when we started doing the continuation Cobras, people always ask Carol, what would it be like if you designed your own car that was really from the ground up? What would you do? So this was really the result of that idea. So this is an all carbon fiber body, honeycomb aluminum chassis, ground up Shelby. It had a double overhead cam, Olds Aurora V8, 6-speed transaxle, and 22 years ago that was kind of It was really good, and it would challenge
So
the
97
turbo.
or 98?
No, this was actually a 1999 model year.
Right.
Okay, so we started thinking about it in '96, came out in '99. Some of them, we did about 250 of them, not quite, and then a few of those, 60 or 70 end up being supercharged.
Wow.
So with the supercharger, you could challenge the turbo Porsches and the Ferraris in that particular time period.
Right, right.
And Viper AC.
And those were monsters even then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this one has the supercharger and some of those things. So a lot of fun and a very unique car. You don't see them anymore.
Wow.
So
Wow.
maybe in a museum.
So in this interview that I did with Carroll 20 years ago,
Yeah.
he talked about 20 years from now, they're going to have electric cars. So my question to you is, if the next car is always the best car, what's next?
Well, you never know. So 20 years ago when you had that interview, shortly after that, Carroll actually did a project with a Cobra in the University of California, and they made it run on hydrogen. So he was trying new things. That car was a failure. It exists. It was cool. It was different, but it really wasn't practical and it wasn't going to work. Okay? Could electric be in our future? Actually, in future interviews, Carroll talked about electric cars.
Right.
And he talked about the future of powertrains and how excited he was to genuinely be a part of that. But in the same time, he realized that, life as it is, most likely he would not be. But he also entrusted the team currently at Shelby with the future and knew that we would work on that with Ford Motor Company.
Well,
so it's
and
pretty cool.
that's right. And Ford with the Mach-E and now the Mach-E GT and the GT Performance, and knowing that other partners of yours, such as Brembo and these companies, are all going that direction. And see him smile. He's got such nice teeth. I know he's got something
of
going
course
on.
there is. Of course there is. Yeah, we're working on the next one, and we'd be foolish not to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we could talk to you about it, but then we'd have to kill you. That's just bad.
All right. Well, so we
we're-
dip our toe into the future, and at least we know that no matter what you're driving
working.
today, this company here is going to be making it that much better.
Performance is our business. And Carroll never defined performance as being gasoline, cars. It could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, right.
And so, hey, stay tuned for the next one.